Yo, what up guys? A few people liked last week's Q&A, so I think I'm gonna actually record one of these every Wednesday, just going over some comments that I didn't read or didn't respond to over the past week. And I'll be uploading them on Patreon and then a week later publicly. Yehuda Nahari said, I think Jon's second death is foreshadowed when Jon asked Melisandre that if he will die again.
If I do, if I fall, don't bring me back.
I'll have to try.
Yeah, I'm starting to think that Jon will die a second time. I mean, he's a Song of Ice and Fire and he's been raised by fire. So it makes sense for him to be raised by ice, by dragonglass. It would just be poetic, you know, there'd be balance. Billy Wood said, feels like the show's Hound is more of a father, protector figure than love interest to both Sansa and Arya.
I was only trying to protect her.
You and me both.
I suspect he was deeply disgusted with the way Ned was killed, and he may have felt an obligation without ever thinking on it. Maybe. No, Billy, you're totally right. Sansa theory, Brienne Kennedy's gonna get mad at me. I love the idea of like Sandor and Sansa falling in love. I don't see it going down that way. I do think that there's a connection there. I mean, like Sansa in the books has dreams about him. She like wears his cloak all the time. She imagines a kiss that didn't happen. And there are a lot of hints in the show as well. But like you said, it's kind of more of like a protector figure for both Sansa and Arya. Thing is, like you said to Brienne on the walk to the dragon pit, like Arya doesn't need protecting. I do think that there will be a scene where he protects Sansa in the show in season 8. I actually think he might die in that scene and Beric might raise him. And none of this stuff's going to happen in the books. I mean, Beric's already dead in the books and there's Lady Stoneheart. But I think Beric in the show is going to raise the Hound. Because then, I never really saw Clegane Bowl happening. Like, the Hound's supposed to be over his brother. He shouldn't really be holding on to his grudge. He's still fueled by hate.
Hate's as good a thing as any to keep a person going.
What kept you going?
Hate.
It's like his character hasn't really grown. He's changed and he's a pretty cool dude now, but that's his main thing, and he's still holding on to it. It'd be much cooler if the Hound turns into, or Sandor turns into, like a fire white fighting against his brother, and whatever type of white he is, like Dr. Frankenstein white. But then it's also interesting, because this stuff may actually be a translation of the books. In the books, Brienne is with Jaime and Lady Stoneheart, so they're coming together. The whole time, Brienne and the Hound never fought. Brienne had been looking for the Hound. So imagine somehow the Hound also comes into that picture. We don't know what's going to play out in that scene. I don't think Brienne or Jaime are going to die. But let's pretend in the books that Lady Stoneheart ends up giving her life to the Hound for whatever reason. I know, it doesn't really make sense. But these same characters, now you've got like the Fire White Hound, Brienne and Jaime, and then if they all go down to King's Landing, like that big scene with Valonqar, Arya could be there. It's actually pretty cool. Clegane Bowl in a sense, as long as it has more depth, like it's Brienne and the Hound fighting together, or Sandor and Arya, or Brienne and Arya, it'll be pretty satisfying, I think. Especially since Brienne and the Hound are sort of mirror images of one another. Jaime in the books actually says that Brienne is like the Hound with teats, and we saw on the show that they're basically equal to one another fighting. Of course, the Hound has a little bit of an injury on his leg. He seems to have gotten past it though, at least in season 7. In season 6, he was still limping. Sarma Winter asks, could it be possible that the Targaryens are distantly related to the Night's King, like from the original prophecy in The Making of the Sword? So it all comes down to everyone maybe having similar blood. Like Targaryens may be like proto-Danes, like basically the people who are the Danes end up being the Valyrians. And someone like, I definitely think the Night's King was a Stark, or has Stark blood. I think he was Jon Snow. But I don't know if he has Valyrian blood. I know a lot of people think he has Valyrian blood, so I'm going to have to actually look that up and see the logic behind it. But sometimes I wonder whether if the reason that Targaryens had so much incest was that they knew it was dangerous to mix their blood with blood of like the Starks. Maybe that's why the Night King's back, because Jon Snow, he's a Song of Ice and Fire, and that fire has sort of given life to the ice magic in a sense. I don't know. So based off that, I would say that the Night King does not have Targaryen blood, and the fact that the Starks and the Targaryens have mixed their blood may be the problem. Of course, then people say, like, there have been other First Men mixing with the Targaryens, like Bloodraven. But I don't know if, like, the other First Men versus Stark blood. The Stark blood might be special First Men blood. I don't have an answer. I'm sorry. L. Paul says, Jon's name being Aegon is strange to say the least. We know Dany's the conqueror, not Jon. Was Aegon ever known as a uniter? Because that's Jon. By the end of season 8, I think he's going to have every army, including the Lannister army after Arya kills Cersei, behind him. Hence, truly uniting the Seven Kingdoms before he dies, of course. Of course. So it's weird because we don't really know. You know, like history, songs are written for whatever king wins. So that's really the big question, is that like Aegon's sort of painted as this guy who was like brutal on the battlefield, but if you bent the knee, he was pretty gracious. And to be honest, he probably was, because some of those people that were in power and fought against him were still in power. So it did seem like he was gracious to people that bent the knee. But you never know, because songs are tweaked for the winning side. But if I had to guess, yeah, I'd say that Aegon was a decent uniter. Jay says, you say Robb was a better fighter than Jon. Why? I think that was on the Corn Half Hand video. I briefly mentioned it. That was a mistake. Well, not necessarily a mistake, but I have better clarity on it. In the show, Jon does say that Robb was better than him at everything, including fighting. I'll play for you the clip.
I was jealous of Robb my whole life. He was better than me at everything. Fighting and hunting and riding and girls.
But that's not even the reason I said that. I'm pretty sure I said it because someone in the books, I think it was Jaime, I'm not positive. It was either Jaime, because he doesn't really meet Jon. Maybe it was Jaime early. Maybe it was Tyrion when Tyrion was up the wall. I don't know. Someone says to Jon, this is just, take this with a grain of salt, but they say something like, oh yeah, Robb was better than you at fighting. But that's not necessarily true. So book version is that he was better than Robb with a sword, but that Robb was better than him with a lance. So it's kind of different. In the show, Robb was better than him in everything, whereas in the books, Jon was better than him with a sword. So that's my bad. As far as like the best fighter series, I'm going to pick that up a couple months from now. Basically, I want to get a lot of like theory and prediction videos done before the leaks come out, because I'm going to read the leaks this year, and once the leaks come out, I'm not going to be making prediction videos just to like pretend like I know shit and spoil stuff for you guys. I will make some predictions that are not involved in leaks. So for the time being, I want to get as many of those videos out, and then I'll get back to like other stuff like top fighters. Fold5 says, I think one of the last scenes will be a new pact with the Night King on the Isle of Faces, where Jon Snow gives his child up to be the Ice Queen. Oh, the Ice King turns her into a White Walker and upholds the truce that was broken when his supply of baby boys was cut off. Oh man. The only thing I don't like about that is that Jon is willing to sacrifice his own life for people. I don't think Jon would be willing to sacrifice someone else's life, especially a child. I hope it doesn't go down that way. That would be sad. Wrath of Destruction asked, is he full grown? I'm assuming that this is probably one of like the dragon size videos and we're talking about Drogon. No. As far as we know, take this with a grain of salt. As far as we know, dragons continue to grow. They never stop growing. Kind of like weirwood trees in a sense. They're magical. Like weirwood trees will live forever, potentially grow forever, which is why we have some really huge weirwood trees around Westeros. The thing is, dragons do die of old age. Balerion died of old age, or at least that's what we're told. Who knows, maybe it was poison or something, but I think Balerion actually died of old age. You gotta figure at some point, you just can't even eat enough to maintain your body. That may even be symbolic in terms of like human population just like overtaking the world. At some point, like nature has its own defense mechanism, and for dragons, which would keep growing and keep eating, maybe that defense mechanism is that they die off because they would basically eat up the entire world. All right. Short answer, no, he's not fully grown. Drogon's going to keep growing. Here's what's interesting. In The Princess and the Queen, I think it was Rhaenyra, or maybe it was Rhaenys, the queen who never was. One of them mentions that their dragons are bigger. I think it was Princess Rhaenyra. Their dragons are bigger on Dragonstone because they live in Dragonstone, which sort of implies that dragons grow more on Dragonstone, maybe because they're near volcanic activity, or maybe because they're near Dragonglass. I think I'm actually finally going to do a Viserion size versus Drogon size video. In the prior seasons, like season 6, they were significantly smaller than Drogon. I mean, he was all flying around. He may have flown over Valyria, which is why he got bigger. And he was also a little bigger to begin with. And he was just out flying around free. Whether that has an impact or not, we don't know. But they look significantly smaller than Drogon in like the ship battle scene in season 6. But in season 7, there are a couple scenes that make them look almost the same size. Like let's say 3/4 the dimensions. That's over 2 times the mass, like 1.33 to the third power. Then again, I think Vhagar was 3 times the size of Caraxes. There are a lot of dragon fights. Like you don't have to be the same size to take each other down. If you can grapple, tie each other up, fall, poof. I mean, that's what's going to happen. I think that there will be a dragon on dragon crime in right around Winterfell. Because Winterfell's walls are magical. Dead can't get past them. That's why Mel had to go under the walls at Storm's End before giving birth to that shadow baby. So I don't think that the White Walkers and the Whites are going to breach the walls of Winterfell, with the exception that it would happen if the Night King has Viserion. That's why I think Viserion has to die up north in Winterfell. So there's going to be something like a Caraxes type Vhagar fight near Winterfell. I don't know though, because then I have to really wrap my arms around the Dany's vision of Burnt King's Landing, because that seems like something the Night King would do.
I didn't trip, I was pushed.
Ever since you've been mean.
Will you fuck off?
I don't think you're truly mean. You have sad eyes.
I left this shit city because I didn't want to die in it. Am I gonna die in this shit city? What did they do to you?